Today we're taking a look at 5 new Benchmade knives that you guys probably won't buy. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today we're talking about pocket knives, specifically some pretty high-end premium knives from Benchmade. Now you guys probably already know that Benchmade makes some of my favorite everyday carry knives. A knife like this that I always go back to. Even though I test out a ton of different knives from a bunch of different manufacturers, I always find myself going back to knives like this, the Bug Out. It is super slim, lightweight, it's got a great blade shape, good blade steel. There's just a lot of things to love about this, and this is always in one of my recommended knives. Now the Bug Out is a knife that is very easy for me to recommend because of all of the good qualities, the build materials, everything about it correlates with the price point. There's a lot of different flavors of the Bug Out, and you can find them relatively affordable, at least in my opinion, for an EDC knife. Now these more premium style knives that we're taking a look at today have fairly high price points across the board, and generally when I'm talking about products, I often don't talk about price because I don't make these videos to sell you guys anything. When we're specifically talking about knives, I just like to bring you guys this type of content because I like pocket knives. They're things that I carry with me all the time. I find them super useful, and I know people hate when things get expensive. And they can be expensive for a lot of different reasons, whether it's like a limited version or some type of really nice high quality material or blade steel. Whatever the situation may be, pocket knives can be made in a way that they just end up being pretty expensive. And that's why I'm saying that you guys probably won't buy any of these. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. If you are into premium, high quality USA made knives, then something here might tickle your fancy a little bit. One in particular has actually kind of dethroned the Bug Out for a little bit, so we'll see if that continues, and we're gonna save that one for last. So in no particular order for the rest of them, we're gonna jump into these 5 knives that I have here in front of me. We'll make some comparisons and just kind of talk about what makes these knives really cool. So first up, we have a reissue here over on the left-hand side. This is the Benchmade 710FE-2401, also known as the 710. Now what makes this 710 a little bit expensive is of course the material choices, the blade on here, but also these are brought back in a limited quantity. They are only making 2,500 of these blades, and so far I believe they've been selling really well. I'm pretty sure they might be sold out by the time this video goes live, but I figured I would show you guys anyway. So this knife was actually brought back to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Axis lock technology, which Benchmade has done a great job with over the years. There are a lot of other similar lock designs out there, but you really can't go wrong with the action and the lockup, the quality of these Axis locks. Now the 710 is a recurve drop point style blade, full PVD finish all over it. The blade is a flat earth style color, the clip has a black oxide finish. Tip up deep carry pocket clip on there. The handles are made out of a 6061 T6 aluminum. This is a fairly large knife coming from Benchmade, at least for a folder. It's also fairly hefty too, coming in at 5.16 ounces. So this thing feels really good in the hand. And while I'm not a huge fan of this style of blade, it's pretty close to my preferred style, which is generally just like a drop point. But this one might hit home for some of you out there. The blade on here is made out of a magna cut steel, giving it that premium price tag, and just the fit and finish on this thing is phenomenal. Now I have not carried this one, I really just took it out of the box right now. So the Axis lock is a little bit stiff, but once this thing breaks in, I think the weight of that blade and how big it is overall, the action on this thing would be phenomenal. The aluminum milling over here, everything about this knife is really premium, but I think this knife is really only going to be for the true enthusiast who have Benchmade everything, and of course if you like big knives. So I have a few for comparison here. I have a Osborne, very similar handle blade shape combo on there, kind of funky like the Osborne, but this thing is still feeling much smaller. We also have the Redoubt that I just took a look at a little while ago, and this is a fairly large knife. It's a little bit bigger overall than the Griptilian, and it's still kind of dwarfed by the 710. But then if we compare it to my biggest folding Benchmade knife in the collection, right here I have the Sock P folder. I have done a video on this blade as well. It's like one of their Blackline tactical self-defense knives designed by Greg Thompson. I don't think Benchmade will ever release a knife that is a folder that is longer than this thing. So that is the 710. Mine happens to be number 17 out of 2,500 blades, and they might be sold out, so this thing could kind of be a collector's item. I very rarely sell or get rid of knives. Sometimes I will gift them to people, so this thing will probably be in my collection for a long time. Next up, we have a new flavor of the mini Adamas, and I have quite a few Adamases here to kind of compare this to. So what makes this Adamas more premium than like one of the standard ones that I have to compare here? First of all, it's an auto. There are no thumb studs on this blade, and you can get that blade out by using the access lock. When the blade is closed, you can also lock it with a lock on the spine, which has some jimping just the same as the handles do, and the fit and finish on these blades is always phenomenal. Now this blade has marbled carbon fiber handles on here. It's a drop point style blade, which is one of my favorites, and it's made out of a CPM magnet cut steel. Deep carry pocket clip. It is ambidextrous as well because you can flip it to the other side. PVD coating on this thing for the clip, which is a flat dark earth color. Stonewash finish on the blade. The marbled carbon fiber on this thing is just really beautiful. What's cool about using a material like marbled carbon fiber is that no two knives are going to be the same. And speaking of that, I actually have another one right here, brand new in the box, and I think I'm going to be giving this one away to one of you guys over on Instagram, so stay tuned for that. So this is a really elegant yet kind of user-friendly knife. It's big and chunky. This thing actually weighs less than the 710, which is kind of surprising. This Adamas is coming in at 4.6 ounces, so a little bit lighter than this guy. Now let's take a look at some other ones for comparison. We have the large Adamas. What's great about these blades is that the handle shape and everything, at least for me, fits perfectly in my hand. The mini feels right at home, and the large also does. It may even feel a little bit too big or oversized. But if you're looking for a tactical knife that can do a little bit of everything, you could really use this thing for bushcraft because of the overall design of it. The large Adamas, this thing has been in my pocket quite a few times, but it's very large, so I often find myself going back to the bug out. We also have kind of a standard mini here, same size, just with different coatings and colors. A standard version is going to be a little bit cheaper than a knife like this. This one is the crewwear version, and this is the magnet cut. In the grand scheme of things, all of these blade steels are going to be phenomenal for an everyday carry knife, so you can just kind of pick whatever you think will work best for your scenario. And then honorable mention right here, I have a aluminum handle version from Parker, and Parker is active over on my Patreon. He has been for a while. He started a company where he's basically taking knives and customizing them for people all over the country, Rocky Top Customs. He's based out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and he made this blade for me because I had the large and I never had the mini, so shout out to Parker. This is a custom one-off, and this will always be in my collection. So that is the mini auto Adamas. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Next up, we have another blade from their tactical line. This is the Shootout, the 5371 FE Shootout to be exact. And you guys may have seen me talk about the Shootout before because I have one right here that looks very similar. I just showed this kind of recently in a OTF video. I'm sure it has showed up in some other comparisons on the channel in the past. Both of these blades have CF Elite handles on there, which is just like my favorite carbon fiber Elite bug out. So very lightweight, very stout. And the only thing that really differs these two is the addition of this new blade. So now we have a drop point style blade, but also the Tanto kind of really works for this knife, especially because it's in the black line. Deep carry pocket clips, great action on both of these knives. That could be annoying if you're doing that around a significant other or co-workers. Great action on these Shootouts. They have glass breakers on each end, which I of course have never used, but I'm sure they work just fine. PVD coated CPM crewwear blades on both of these guys, and these are going to be a little bit more affordable than like the 710 and my favorite knife in this lineup. So if you are an OTF fan, these might be up your alley, but maybe not. Now the next in this lineup is one that I accidentally put on my Instagram story a little while ago, and Benchmade sent this one out to me a little bit early to check out. They were like, hey man, you can't show that yet. so I took the story down, but now they're giving me like kind of like the exclusive access to show you guys this, and we're not going to talk about it much, but in the past you guys have probably caught my video on the Benchmade OTF Claymore, and I probably like this blade a little bit more than the Shootouts. However, I put this one in my pocket, and this is the perfect size, at least for me, for an OTF. So they are coming out with a mini Claymore OTF. Here's a little bit of a size comparison there for you guys, and this video will be coming out before this thing releases, but that's just like an exclusive look. Maybe you heard it from me, maybe you didn't. It's essentially the same blade, same fit, finish, blade steel, handle material, pocket clips, everything, but just in a smaller package. And this thing had been in my pocket quite frequently, actually. And now for my absolute favorite. I got a lot of these knives around the same time, and this one has been in my pocket ever since. I think this one is kind of slowly replacing my love for the bug out, because it does a lot of the similar things that I love about this, but in a bigger and possibly even lighter form factor. I'm not exactly sure. But this blade was first introduced maybe a year and a half ago, and the overall design actually won some awards at Blade Show. This version is of course all black, and I absolutely love this thing. There's already a bunch of tape gunk on here because it's been in my pocket and I've been using it so much, but this guy right here is known as the Benchmade Narrows. If you're looking for this specific variant, it is in their blue class, and it is the 748 BK-01. Now I can't stress these adjectives that I'm about to use enough. This thing is ultra thin, incredibly lightweight, and it kind of feels weird when you have it in your hand. From the side profile, it looks like a regular knife, but when you're looking at it from the back, the spine, or like the front of it, it's just so incredibly thin, and it goes basically completely unnoticed in my pocket. Even though you have a nice size blade on there, the slim form factor and the weight on this guy is really what I love about it, just the same way I love a lot of those things about the bug out. Now this specific variant is all black. It's a dark variant, matte black DLC titanium handle scales, and then they have a polished black DLC M390 drop point style blade. This thing is using what Benchmade calls their torsion axis system and thrust bearings. I believe what that means is there are bearings in this pivot, which you can kind of see. You're not going to be able to see it on camera, but there must be like bearings in the pivot, and the action on this is phenomenal. Whether you're opening it with the thumb studs or you're just flicking it around with the axis lock. The axis lock actually has a really nice kind of angle on it, so it makes it really easy to pull. This is probably my favorite knife that Benchmade has released in a long time, and I think it might continue to be until maybe they bring back something like the Benchmade 42. I've wanted a 42 for so long, and I wish they would bring something like that back. I have a few of their balisongs in my knife collection, but this thing is just so good. The titanium keeps it lightweight. The M390 blade on there, it's probably never gonna have to be sharpened because I'm just using this to like open boxes and things like that. It feels about the same weight as this Carbon Fiber Elite bug out. I don't remember the actual weight of the CF Elite bug out off the top of my head, but the Narrows is coming in at 2.43 ounces, so incredibly lightweight. And this thing is probably like replacing the bug out for me, which is crazy to say. The bug out is a little bit smaller overall, but the fidget factor and everything that this knife has to offer, it's just so good. You guys have to like experience this and feel it in person. That being said though, very expensive knife. Again, going back to the beginning, you're probably not going to buy this knife, but if you ever get the chance to feel one of these and check it out yourself, and you like USA made quality, premium materials like titanium and M390, if you really like the shape and the milling of the titanium handles on here, there's a good chance that maybe you would pick this thing up. We're getting up into like Chris Reeve price territory here and some other like high-end makers, and a lot of people will freak out about that and leave nasty comments on videos like this. How can you show a knife that costs so much? I totally get it, I understand, but if I were to buy any of these knives, although this is probably one of the most expensive out of the group, this is the one that I would buy. This is just, I love it. And with that being said, this is going right back into my pocket where it has been for the past like week and a half, 2 weeks now. So I know this has been a pretty long video, but I've got one more to show you guys here, which doesn't really fall into the folder category, but it does fall into the super ultra premium category. This is actually the most expensive knife on my table right now. And outside of everyday carry knives, my other version of this knife is actually what I use probably the most at home. We're talking about the Station. Now, I have not seen this blade yet. I'm gonna push everything out of the way. It actually just came in the mail today, and this was a custom order Station knife with a lot of cool materials. So I'll give you guys the money shot here. Warning, extremely sharp knives. Open carefully, right side up. This is exactly why I needed another one of these knives. American-made cutlery designed for adventure. I use my regular Station knife every single day while I'm at home, and it is my nicest kitchen knife that I own. These knives are really designed for adventure, like they talk about right here on the packaging, and I wanted to have one in my camping setup. So, since I've been using my other Station knife for like a year and a half probably, that one is being demoted, maybe promoted to my camping setup. So I actually have that in my truck packed for this trip that I'm about to leave on. And this guy will be the new in-house kitchen knife. You know it's premium when you have a magnet closed box on here. A little peek. I'll let you guys see it first. Oh, I can only see it in the viewfinder on my camera right now. Gosh, this thing is so sick. Crafted by hand, coated blades and handles may appear dull after washing. To return to the original finish, add a small amount of food grade oil. Life sharp guarantee, American-made cutlery designed for adventure. Now, this is really getting outside of my territory, but check out how I customize this thing. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Oh my gosh, dude. This is crazy. I don't even know if I want to cut anything with this. Oh my gosh. So I went on to the Benchmade customizer and I designed this Station knife right here, which is really good for pretty much everything in the kitchen and food prep. I designed it with carbon fiber handles that has copper like interweaved into this handle material. I've never really seen anything like that before, and honestly, it kind of feels like it adds like a little bit of weight to it. So the balance is a little bit handle heavy depending on where you're actually holding this blade, but man, that feels so good. And then I also decided to go all out and get the Datasteel, which I'm typically not a fan of, but for this application, I've never seen Damascus like that before. That's just insane. I'm pretty blown away with this knife, if you guys can't tell, but yeah, I just wanted to show that off real quick because you guys would probably only see this if you're coming over to the house and I'm cooking it up for you in the kitchen. This thing in my camping gear, way too expensive, way too premium. I'm super hard on my stuff when I'm camping, so the knife upstairs has been demoted and this is the new kitchen knife. I cannot wait to use this thing tonight. So if you guys have any questions on any knife that you saw here, even though you're probably not going to buy any of them, let me know in the comments down below. I highly, highly recommend checking out a Narrows in person if you can. If you see me out in public and you say, hey Talon, what's in your pocket? There's a good chance that it will be this knife, at least for the next like couple weeks, maybe months, I don't know. I am a huge fan of this thing. I think some of you guys might be too, if you can swallow that price. So that's all for today. If you guys are new here, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.